Okay, we'll start Sadik Chesed base, the bottom line, 98b, the last line, Taner Rabbanan. Starting the Brisa, Charutzim Hayakrashim. We're learning about different parts of the Mishkan. We got into this because we were discussing the wagons. So it says the Krushim, which are the beams of the Mishkan, the walls, they're carved out on the bottom, and then the adanim, which are the sockets that the beams were placed into, those were hollow. So it was carved out to be like finger protrusions sticking down, and it would fit right in, but those fingers were carved inwards so that it should be flush with the sockets. Okay, the next point of this price is Venirin Krosin Belois Kachavim Barakia. They sewed these tapestries together, 5 and 5, and then they connected them by lining them up, and they had golden hooks that would join them together. When you would go inside the Mishkan and you would look up, you would see the center, you would see the golden hooks there. And it looked like stars in the sky. That was only from the inside. From the outside, you saw the other things. You saw the goat hair. The inside covering of the Mishkan, which is called the Urias Tachtonis, it's actually called the Mishkan. That's made out of wool, blue wool, purple wool, red wool, and also linen. However, the ones on top of that were made out of goat hair. It says goats, but obviously it wasn't goats on the Mishkan, it was goat hair. And on top of that, which we don't mention here, were those other skins, those fancy skins. Now it says, there was more wisdom that went into making those goat hair ones than it went into making the wool and the linen one. On the bottom one, the inside coverings, the tapestries, any woman that's wise heart, would spin the thread with her hands. But regarding the upper ones that went over the tapestries, which is called the oyel. The bottom was called the Mishkan. The second was called the oyel ala Mishkan. This was, it went over it. Over there it says, all the women that their hearts lifted with wisdom, they spun the goats. The Tanya. It was taught in the Brisa, and it was taught in the Brisa in the name of Reb Nechemia that Shatav Bisim V'Tavim Menezim, that they washed the hair while it was on the goats, and they spun the hair while it was on the goats. Very strange thing to do. They actually twisted the hair while it was attached, and then afterwards they cut it off. That was supposed to be a very big wisdom to be able to do that. I'm not sure what the benefit is. Whatever it is, it took wisdom. Okay. Shtegezus choice mentioned that there were balconies on one side. You would pass from one to another. You were tired. It's on the side of a Rosh Hashanah, which meant that the Rosh Hashanah was under it. You're in the Rosh Hashanah because you're on your balcony. So from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah could be chayiv with the Rosh Hashanah in the center. Amarav Mishim Reb Chia, Agalis Tachteim V'Neim B'Tzidem Rosh Hashanah. This we mentioned before, and this is what got us into this. The wagons underneath them, between them, and on their sides are Rosh Hashanah. Amar Abaya, Abaya says, "Ben agala la'agala kamlayar chagala." Between the wagons, it's the same amount as the length of the wagons. Well, kamayar chagala. How long are the wagons? So it says, hey amas. It's 5 amas. We even drew a diagram that it's 5 amas long. So the Gemara asks right away, Lamali b'dalidu palgasagi. Why do you need 5 amas? You could have 4.5. There was 2 possibilities of why the Gemara is suggesting this. You see, each keresh was 1.5 tfachim. 1.5 amas. So if you put down 1.5 amas, with 1.5 it's 3, plus another one it's 4.5. You can't fit a fourth one on. So 4.5 would be the limit. The laying flat on the sides, laying flat on the going sideways. Then the other possibility is that they're laying not flat on the back, which is 1.5 amas, but they're actually laying on their thickness, which is one amma. Then you could fit, technically you could fit 5, but you weren't going to fit 5 because they had the rings that for the poles that went in, so that took up some space. So the limit would be 4, but if you take into account those rings, so that would be 4.5. So the Gemara is asking, why don't you just have 4.5? The Gemara answers, well, they don't want it to be squished, the beams. Very funny question and answer. He says, why don't you make it squished? The answer is, we don't want to make it squished. It's like, well, what's the, what didn't we know beforehand that we just found out in this answer? Amar Rava then says, this was Abaya that was discussing this, the length and the sides. Rava says, Tzidei agala kamlei rechav agala. The sides of the wagon is the same as the width of the wagon. We only mentioned the length of the wagon, which is 5. What about the width? How wide were they? Again, the krushim are 10 amas long. That length is placed on these wagons. We don't know how wide they are. So, the kamera chavagala, how wide is it? So, shtei amas it's 2.5. Unbelievable. So, 2.5 amas is holding a 10 amas long keresh. Means you have on each side you have 3 amas and a quarter. It's hanging over. It's a lot, very little area to support. Very, very little support for this large beam. The Gemara it goes even further. The Gemara says, Lamali, why do you need so much? Ba'amso palgasaga, you could have just used 1.5 amma. Now, here, the Gemara is not explaining exactly why it's suggesting 1.5 amma. Possibly what it means is if you would put the krushim the other direction, then they were 1.5 amma wide, and you would put them along the length. It would be 1.5 amma. Otherwise, the Gemara is just suggesting that, well, 2.5 amas could hold 10 amas long, and that's easy. You can even get less support, 1.5 amma of support. The Gemara answers, so that they don't wobble. They would wobble. It's funny, 2.5 amas, so it would seem to wobble as well. If there's more hanging over than support, it's going to wobble. Ella de Kaimala. Okay, now we have a new question. My kids said the sikha over that why was it like this? The Rebbe says that every single spot needed to be used for something. There shouldn't be anything extra. Everything needed to have its purpose. If it would be a little bit extra, and there would be things that were unnecessary. We say that a Rosh Hashanah is 16 amas. The street is 16 amas. That's considered public domain. Where do we get that from? We get it from the wagons. So the wagons, we said that the wagon itself was 2.5 amas. We said in between the wagons, the sides of the wagon was another 2.5 amas. So 2.5 amas. That means the wheels. The wheel part would be 2.5 amas. So what comes out is that the wagon itself is 7.5 amas, because 2.5. There's 5 amas for the wheels and 2.5 for the center, and then another 7.5 amas for the second wagon, because the 2 wagons side by side. So that would make a total of 15 amas. Rashi over here is concerned about a different issue. Rashi says, what are you talking about? If you have 2 sets of krushim on each wagon, and the krushim are 10 amas each, then you're talking about 20 amas. You're not talking about 15 amas. You left out the 2.5 amas that's hanging over the other side, right? You're not discussing those. So we're not discussing the krushim. Rashi says we're not talking about the beams over here. We're learning Rosh Hashanah from the wagons themselves, not from the beams that are on top of the wagons, because the beams that are on top of the wagons are above 10. Oh, I see a picture over there. The beams that are on top of the wagon are above 10 tvachim, so that's not a Rosh Hashanah anymore. Above 10 tvachim, it's called a makom p'tur. So we're dealing only with the wagons themselves. The wagons themselves, the Gemara asks, that's chamesrei haber, that's only 15 amas. Why do we say that a Rosh Hashanah is 16 amas? So the Gemara answers, Amsi Yisera Habai, there was an extra amma there. David Koi ben Levi, the Chimishtalfi Krashma Vinakatlo. The Levi had to stand there to make sure that when it wobbled or when it would lean to one side, that the krushim didn't fall off. So we have an extra amma, a little space on the side or in the middle, that he should be able to adjust the krushim so they don't fall. Okay. We have a Mishnah. It says, Chulya sabar v'asela, shengvayin asara v'roch b'marba. We're describing now a Rosh Hashanah. Of course, a Rosh Hashanah is a private property that has a wall around it and all of that. But a Rosh Hashanah could also be any area that's 10 tvachim high, that's 4 tvachim wide. That's considered Rosh Hashanah, even if it's in a public domain. So, for example, a mailbox, it's 10 tvachim high, it's 4 tvachim wide. If it's round, I don't know if you'll be able to put on it, but let's say it's flat. A book, a library book drop-off thing. It's flat on the top. Sometimes these electrical things, they have these boxes on the ground. That's considered Rosh Hashanah. 10 tvachim high and 4 tvachim wide. So now, what the Mishnah here is telling me is that applies also 10 tvachim down. If it's a sela, if it's a rock, so then it's 10 tvachim high and 4 tvachim wide. That's a Rosh Hashanah. If it's a pit, it's also 10 tvachim deep and 4 tvachim wide. That's a Rosh Hashanah. The Mishnah adds in chulya sabar, that it's possible that when you dig out the pit, so you take the soil that you dug out and you put it around the side. Rashi says, like we do for our wells, we put a wall around the well. But you would use the material that you took out of the pit to build that wall, so that would be able to also create a depth of 10 tvachim. Okay, but we didn't explain yet. But the halacha goes like that. Now we're just setting up the scenario. The halacha says, "Hanoitel mehem." If you take from the sela, you take from the pit, you take from the chulya sabar. V'aneisin al gabana, you put on top of the sela, which is a rock, or on top of the wall around the pit, then you're chayiv. Why? Because you're in Rosh Hashanah. That area is Rosh Hashanah. You transferred from domain Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, the opposite. Bachas mikan pater. If it's less than that, then you're exempt. Less than that is every possibility less than that. One possibility is if it's lower, if it's only 9 tvachim, then it's considered a carmelis. If it's 4 tvachim wide, it would be considered a carmelis. If it's less than 4 by 4, then it would be considered a makom patur. It's 10 tvachim high. 10 tvachim high, but not 4 by 4 wide, is a makom patur. It's an area of exemption. That would be like if someone put something on top of a street sign. Something it's not a good example because there's nothing really for it to stand over there. But that would be a makom patur. Or a fire hydrant, which is lower than 10 tvachim, that would be considered a carmelis if it would be wider, if it would be 4 by 4. Okay, so we're learning 10 tvachim high, 4 by 4 wide, is considered a shasiyachet. The Gemara asks that if your point is to tell me the height and the depth, so lamali l'misni chuliyas abar v'hasela, lisni abar v'hasela, you're just telling me height and depth. Bar is equal to depth. That's the deep, how deep it is. And hasela is how high. Why do you have to then tell me that there's chuliyas abar, there's the wall around the pit? What are you trying to tell me with that? Telling me height, so that I know from the sela. Telling me deep, that you know from the bar. What are you mixing in the chuliyas abar, the wall around it? So, Messiah Leila Rabbi Yechanan, it's coming to support what Rabbi Yechanan said. To tell me that I can join together a pit and the chulya to create 10. Chulya is the wall around the pit. Let's say the pit is only 5 tvachim, and the chulya is another 5 tvachim. That creates a depth of 10 tvachim. And if you put something inside the pit, you put something in a Rosh Hashanah. Or if you take out from the pit, you've taken out from Rosh Hashanah. Tanya Nami Hachi was also taught in a brayso. Bar b'Rosh Hashanah amuka yud. There's a pit in Rosh Hashanah that's 10 tvachim deep. Rechav arba, and it's 4 tvachim wide. It would have to be like a 4 tvachim square wide. I don't know what would be a 4 tvachim just in a circle. Then you lose the corners. I'm not sure. In Memalim Mena b'Shabbos, you can't take water out of it on Shabbos. Why? Because it's Rosh Hashanah. And you're standing in the street. You're in the Rosh Hashanah. So what are you going to do? Unless you make a wall around it, 10 tvachim tall. That way you enter into the enclosed area. And then you can take water out, but you have to keep the water in the enclosed area. You drink it over there, drinking station. And you would have a wall, a mechitza that's surrounding it. See, probably the mechitza would be good if you needed to give to your animals. They also need to drink. So
this is the first instance of the pool fence.
Pool, yeah, if there would be a pool in a public area, that's what we're talking about. It becomes Rosh Hashanah if it would be in a public area. Usually pools are in the private area anyway, in your backyard. But if there would be a public pool, we're going to see soon about what the ocean is. But so to take out, probably you need for your animals to take water out, so that you would need a mechitza. But if you yourself wanted to drink, there's a solution. you put your head and most of your body over the well, just don't fall in. So you can drink over there because then you're considered in the Rosh Hashanah. Right. Time I think about this, I had a book as a kid, Tiki Tiki Tembo. Anyone have that? These kids fell into the well. They're playing on the eating rice cakes and the well, whatever. Okay.
By the way, just to know, the Gassner pool is a public pool.
Okay. Bar v'chol yasa, this brisa finishes a bar in its pit, mitzarfin lasara. The bar in the, not the pit, the pit in the wall around the pit combines to 10 tefachim. Okay, so that's proof. It's the same thing that Rav Geifenan said. Rav Mordechai miraba. You have a bunch of questions here, a bunch of different questions. This is a classic Hilchos Shabbos. We get stumped by questions whenever anyone starts talking about Hilchos Shabbos. There's so many details. We know the general rules. But then what about this and what about that? After question number 2, it's already like, I don't know. That's what happens over here also. We have Rav Mordechai asks Rabba, Amad b'Rishus Rabbim, K'baya Yud, Rachav Dalet. You have a pillar, a post probably, in Rishus Rabbim, 10 tvachim high, 4 tvachim wide. Okay, so we know what that is. It's Rishus Yachid. Zarak v'nachal gabav mahu. And you throw something and it lands on top. So on top of this post is Rishus Yachid. Easy, what's the shaila? You're in Rishus Rabbim, you put it in Rishus Yachid. It's me, Amrina, and do we say, Arei Akira b'Yisr, Arei Anachim b'Yisr? You lifted it off the ground, Rishus Rabbim, and you put it down in Rishus Yachid. You didn't actually put it down, it landed in the Rishus Yachid, which is on top of the post. Idilma, or maybe Kimdi Makam Patur Kaasya, like, maybe 1 second, how did you get it up there? You had to throw it above 10 tvachim for it to land on the 10 tvachim post. Now, on the 10 tvachim post is Rishus Yachid. There's no shaila. But how did you get it up 10 tvachim? You had to throw it up 10 tvachim in the Rishus Rabbim before the post. Look, if you throw it, it's going to hit the post. So you have to throw it high. When you throw it high, it's going to come down and land on the post. That means it went above 10 tvachim in Rishus Rabbim. What's 10 tvachim, above 10 tvachim in Rishus Rabbim? It's called a Makam P'tur. So it went into a Makam P'tur, and from the Makam P'tur, it landed in Rishus Yachid. It's an interesting question. So do we say that, 1 second, let's just look at how it started. Akira Rishus Rabbim, Hanacha Rishus Yachid. Or do we say that, 1 second, in a Makam P'tur, it passed through on its way to the Rishus Yachid? Tosfos says we already have the answer to this question, because we had a statement at the beginning of the Masechta that if someone goes from his store into the plaza and he walks through the place where the stalls are, which that's a Makam P'tur, that's considered Carmelis, but he goes from a Rishus Yachid to a Rishus Rabbim through a Carmelis, we said it was Chayiv. So here it should be Chayiv. What's the shaila? This is, if you look on the side, Tosfos, he says, Mefarish Rav Piras. So we're talking about over here that he threw it, like an underhand throw, threw it up. It could be, he threw it high also over. He threw it up. But the idea is that it goes up, and then it changes direction and falls back down. So he's saying over here that really he only threw it into a Makam P'tur. It's changing direction, coming back down. That's the force of gravity that pulls it down into the Rishus Yachid. Over there, maybe we say that it's not considered his strength anymore. It's Kayach Kaychai. Newton would love this. Okay. Amarlei Masnisini. So, who is asking this question? This was Rav Mordechai was asking Rabbah. It says, it's our Mishnah. Asa Shaila to Rabbi Yosef. Rav Mordechai wasn't satisfied. He goes to Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef are friends. Goes to him, he says, Amalei Masnisini. Rabbi Yosef says, oh, it's a Mishnah. Asa Shaila Abaya. He goes to Abaya. Abaya is a student of both of them. Amalei Masnisini. He says it's a Mishnah. Amar lahu, he says, Kulchu Bareka da Hadadi Tefisha. I think that means like you're all chewing the same tobacco. That means you're all from the same spit. That's his expression. You all give me the same answer. Amalei Vatle Tizbra. You don't hold this? It's a Mishnah. Anaitel Miam. It's Aleph. Vanaisan al Gabam. Someone that takes from it or puts on top is Chayat. That means on top of this post is considered a Rosh Hashanah. How do you get anything? It's impossible to get anything on top of the post through the post itself. You have to go on top, put it on top. You have to go above, start it off in above 10 Tvachim in Rosh Hashanah, and then you place it down on that surface of Rosh Hashanah. Amalei, just 1 second. It's not necessarily so. In the Mishnah, you can explain it differently. Dilma masnisin b'machat. Maybe our Mishnah is talking about a needle. It's very, very thin. And so somehow you can get it up there without going above the above the 10 Tvachim of Rosh Hashanah, which would be a Makom P'tor. Where it says, 1 second, how thin could it be? Machat nami. Even if it's a needle, but you still have to take the needle above. You change the size, but if the post is 10 Tvachim high, to get it up there, you have to raise it above the 10 Tvachim of the Rosh Hashanah. My answer is Disley Marsha. It's an interesting point that the post has a little bit of a lip, and that lip extends downward, and you're able to get it. That area is also considered a Rosh Hashanah because it's attached to this post that's above the 10 Tvachim. So you slide it up on the lip of the post. You never took the needle above the Rosh Hashanah. This is called the Daichik, when we have a simple Mishnah that seems to be including every possible case. When you behave like that, you put it on top. I was telling me, no, actually the Mishnah is only talking about a case of a needle that in the post has a lip. Yeah.
Does every action need a koach gavra? Because as far as I know, many things don't. Many things do, but I mean, this seems to be taught when you like mentioned gravity as the previously, it was like saying, well, that part, there was no koach gavra, therefore, like take tefillin, right? So, or yadcha, whatever the word, all right? So we tie the tefillin. But what about you do mivtzom and the guy doesn't know how to do tefillin and you tie it on him? He still makes the bracha. He didn't do the koach gavra. Doesn't get the tefillin. So I'm saying it just seems here we're dealing with actions that include a non-exertional force on the part of the doer.
Right. Right. I don't know the answer. This is a surprising Taisvus that uses that. He considers it kayach kayche when it falls down. That's a little surprising. I mean, what was it supposed?
I have no other choice.
What was supposed to happen? What are the... So he threw it up and it falls down. So every case of Zoyrek, according to this, is when you do like an overhand throw and you hit exactly where you want it to hit, not because it's falling, not because it's getting pulled downward. That would be a Zoyrek. If this question actually works out with the other answer.
Dr. Stein's interested because he's going to walk the Hollywood boardwalk putting tefillin on people today. He wants to make sure he knows the full situation.
So that's the first answer the Gemara gives. Inami Duramya Bacharitza. This is a similar answer. He puts it up there through a groove in the post. It's the same idea, that he didn't take it above 10 Tvachim in Rosh Hashanah. He slid it up onto the post only through the Rosh Hashanah itself. It never went into the Makom P'tur. All right. In other words, what the Gemara just did was, we thought we had a simple, he has a question. We thought we had an answer from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, you put something on a post, you're chayiv. We said, well, that Mishnah could be explained in these complicated ways that it's not approved. Amar of Maisha by Rabbi Yochanan. Maisha says, Rabbi Yochanan has a question. Kaisel b'shus rabim k'vayiyad, v'einu rachav arba. There's a wall in Rosh Hashanah, 10 Tvachim, but the wall itself is not considered a Rosh Hashanah. However, a mukaf l'karmelis was Rosh Hashanah. It's surrounding a karmelis. A karmelis is an area usually that's not surrounded by a wall. It's a private area not surrounded by a wall. Here, this wall created a Rosh Hashanah. It's a complicated way of just saying a wall. The zarak v'nachal gabav, and you threw something and it landed on the wall. Mahu, what's the din? Do we say that the wall itself is a makom p'tur because it's not 4 tvachim wide? As we said, it would be a makom p'tur. Anything in a Rosh Hashanah is 10 tvachim high, but doesn't have an area of 4 by 4. Is going to be a makom p'tur. So this wall, it's in Rosh Hashanah. Do we say it's a makom p'tur? Or do we say that, one second, this wall is walling in Rosh Hashanah? I guess the Gemara's question simply is the area of the wall itself considered Rosh Hashanah, or is the area of the wall considered Rosh Hashanah? Maybe the fact that it walled in a karmelis and created a Rosh Hashanah, while it did that, that should make the wall itself, if it creates a Rosh Hashanah, that should make the wall itself a Rosh Hashanah. That's a Ula response. Amar Ula, Kal V'chaymer. It says it's a Kal V'chaymer. La'achera me'sim mechitza la'atzim le'kolshkim. If it can create a Rosh Hashanah for others, which means the karmelis that's in the center, it itself shouldn't be a Rosh Hashanah. So it means that the wall would be, the actual wall would be the most outer part of the wall, would be the actual wall. Not the inner part of the wall, the outer part. It means the wall itself is considered contained inside. Yeah. The place can bring nafkaminas with this. There is a possibility of using people as a wall in different situations. An Erev breaks or something, or in Sukkah there was something about using people for a wall. But what this would mean was that the people themselves would be considered inside. If the people themselves would be carrying something. So, whatever. So, Itmar Nami. It was stated, Amar Rabchia Barashi Amar Rav. Chinam Rab Yitzchak Amar Rab Yochanan. Kaisel b'shus rabim gvaya yud. If you have a wall in Rosh Hashanah that's 10 tvachim high, but the wall itself is not 4 tvachim wide. Mukaf l'karmelis, it's surrounding a karmelis, so therefore v'asar Rosh Hashanah. The karmelis now becomes enclosed, so it becomes Rosh Hashanah. Azerik v'nachal gabav chayev. If you throw on top of it, the person's chayev. Why? Because he threw from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. And the logic is contained in the statement itself. It says, if it creates a Rosh Hashanah, so it shouldn't be a Rosh Hashanah itself. Now, what do we just gain by this Itmar Nami? Originally, we had a question, and Ula gave an answer. Now we have a statement where the whole answer and statement is all put in one saying. Okay, Boy Rabbi Yochanan, another question. Bar Tisha, if you have a pit that's 9 tvachim deep, so that would be considered a karmelis. It's a 4 by 4. It's not it's not a Rosh Hashanah yet because the Rosh Hashanah would be 10 Tvachim deep. V'akar mimena chulya. And you took out some dirt from the bottom. V'shleima la'asara. You made it deeper. So Mahu, what's the din? Akiras chayfetz v'asiyas machitza b'hadi adadi kaso u'machayev. Do we say that simultaneous with your carrying is creating a rishus, and it's becoming a rishus hayachid, simultaneous with your taking out this dirt. So therefore you're chayev because you took from a rishus hayachid. It wasn't a rishus hayachid when you started, but as you're taking it out, it becomes a rishus hayachid. And you put it in a rishus rabim. Or maybe not. Maybe no, you didn't take from rishus hayachid. You took from a Carmelist. That's what it was when you started. If you say that since originally the walls over here were not 10 tvachim, that's the expression over here that we're looking for. That's going to be Rosh Hashanah is the walls. 10 tvachim walls. Something that's walled in 10 tvachim is going to be Rosh Hashanah. But since it didn't have 10 tvachim at the beginning, it only after you removed it. Let's do it the other way. Let's say it started off 10 tvachim. You take dirt and you put it inside it. And as you're putting it in, it's losing the 10 tvachim. So what are you putting it down in? Do we say that it's not simultaneous with your putting it in? It becomes not a rishus. The walls lose their 10 tvachim. Mahu hanachas chayfetz v'silik mechitza b'hadi adadi kasi. Do we say that at the same moment that you're putting this down, you're removing the walls? That's an expression that means you're lessening the walls from 10 tvachim because it's the depth is becoming diminished. And therefore, in Machayev, Machayev, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we don't say this. We say that, put it down. Say that you pater. One second, that Machayev throws you off because Nachas Chayfetz V'Silik Mechitza. It's a little strange, the Machayev. If you say Bahadi Adadi, that it's simultaneous, it seems that it should be pater. No? Here, if it's at the same time, it started off as Yud. When you put it down, you lose the Yud, you lose the 10. It should be pater. I'm not sure why it says that. Okay.
Rabbi?
Oh, so the way you have to read this is you put a comma there and you read it, Machayev, V'loi Machayev. That's how you do it. I guess that's how you do it. Anyway, okay, yeah.
That sounds a little weird to me. It's like saying you're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. No, right? But you're allowed to have something cooked on the blech. So I'm going to take something uncooked, I'm going to cook it on the blech so it becomes totally cooked. And then by the time I go to eat it, it's a cooked thing that's on the blech. Therefore, I never cooked it at all. Well, actually, you're technically allowed to put cholent on right before Shabbos, I think.
It's a different story.
Yeah. But it just sounds, the whole story sounds weird.
Think about this a little different. Everything that a slave acquires belongs to the master. The way you free a slave is you give him a document, whatever it's called, deed of manumission or whatever. How does he acquire that? Whenever, as soon as he takes it, it belongs to the owner. The Gemara over there says that him taking it and his freedom come together. So somehow that's able to happen simultaneous, that he gains his ability to acquire it as he's coming free, and it works together. So this is what we're discussing. We're not talking about someone puts food on the fire and then look, if it's once it's cooked already, so then there's no problem. You say, hey, what do you know? Now it's cooked already. So no, he put it there and it cooked. Here what we're saying is that where did he place the object? He placed it in a Rosh Hashanah, or in Rosh Hashanah, let's say. Placed it in Rosh Hashanah. But the fact is that as he placed it, it's not a Rosh Hashanah. It's losing its status as he's doing his act. That's the question. Okay, Tifshal Emedidei. I guess that means we should answer from Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is going to comment on a Mishnah, and that's supposed to help us. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Someone throws something at a wall. He throws it above 10 tefachim at the wall. He's in a Rosh Hashanah. He's throwing it 4 amos, so that she should be liable. But the only thing is, that's Kazerik Ba'avir. It's like he threw it into the airspace because he threw it above 10 tefachim. Lamata me'asara, but if he throws it below 10 tefachim, that means close to the ground. Kazerik Ba'aretz. It's like he threw it on the ground. Okay, that's Rosh Hashanah. Hazerik ba'arba ames, hazerik ba'aretz arba ames chayiv. And someone that throws on the ground 4 amos is chayiv. We asked the question, we deliberated on this Mishnah. We said, we said you threw it at the wall, but it didn't land. I don't know where it went, but it didn't land. You just threw it at the wall. We're talking about that it was a fig. That's a fig, right? Figure a date. I think it's a fig. Right? And you threw it at the wall and it got stuck to the wall. So it did land on the wall. The Gemara asks an interesting question. We said that you threw it 4 amos. Now, 4 amos was from you to the wall. The problem is that when it's stuck to the wall itself was the 4 amos. When it sticks to the wall, it didn't really make it 4 amos because it stopped right at the 4 amos. So the Gemara answers, over there, hasam lei mevatalei, hacham mevatalei. If it was a piece of dirt, now when the dirt hits the wall, let's say it was dirt, like cement or something, you threw it on the wall. So now you've now made a new wall. So you've extended the size of the wall, which means that what used to be 4 amos now got diminished. But here what we're saying is that you're not diminishing the size of the 4 amos now, because the fig that you threw on the wall, you're going to go take it off the wall. You're not mevatel it to the wall. See, it's a little strange because what's coming out, Taisus points this out, that if someone, the whole time we were saying that if something is still attached to one rishus, like it has strings attached, it's still considered in that rishus. He talks about if someone threw a spear or anything that was long. We always said that it has to be totally removed from the rishus. Here you're making it look like it's still partially in the rishus. the raya that the Gemara was trying to bring was that when it hits the wall, although it's at the end of 4 amas, but it's exactly at the end of 4 amas. So maybe we should consider it that as it's hitting the wall, it's becoming a new area. No. Okay, so how does this answer? This would tell me it doesn't answer. That's what we're saying. It doesn't answer because you can't compare. When you put dirt in a pit, you're mevatel it to the pit, so the pit is now losing its size. But when you throw a fig on the wall, you're not losing any area because it's still at the end of 4 amas, and it's not taking away any area because you're not mevatel it to the wall. You're not nullifying it to the wall. Ibai Rava. Zarak Daf and Achal Gabi say this. It's a similar type of question. If you throw a board and the board lands on top of a peg and posts. Now the posts themselves were thin. They did not have an area of 4x4. When you threw this board on it, now it has an area of 4x4. So therefore it's going to become Rosh Hashanah. So what's the din now? You threw the board, and when you throw the board, you've created a Rosh Hashanah together with the board landing. Originally it was just a Makam Tur. My kami boile. What's the shaila? Yeah, are you asking if when you place the object down, you're also at the same time creating a new area? That was the question before of Rabbi Yechanan. If you put something in a pit and you take away the size of the pit. So the Gemara answers, this is a very interesting question. He throws a board. We're not asking if the board itself should create the rishus and then make him chayiv together because of throwing that board. What we're doing is, he throws a board. On top of the board is an object. So the board can create the rishus and he'll be chayiv because of the object on top. Do we say that because they're landing at the same time? It's the same story. It's an interesting twist, yeah. That when the board lands, it's impossible that the chayfetz, the object that's on top, doesn't jump a little bit as it lands on top of that post. So it's as if it got placed again. So let's say it's koyach. It's interesting. So maybe that's considered that you put it down on this rishus, in the new rishus that was just created. Teiku. Gemara doesn't have an answer. Yamar Rava. Rava says, Pshitali, it's obvious to me. That's always an introduction to a question. Mayim al gabe mayim means if someone takes some water off water, when the halacha of carrying on Shabbos is you need to akira, you have to uproot it, and you have to place it down. So when you take a little bit of water out of a pool of water, are you uprooting it from a place that's settled? The question could be also if the water's flowing, it was moving before him. Whatever the case is, mayim al gabi mayim, that's considered an uprooting. And hainu anachasan. Why? Because it was considered placed on the water. Water was placed on top of water. Let's say egas al gabi mayim. Let's say there was a nut that floats, shell, it floats in the shell on top of the water. So if you remove it off the water, lav hainu anachasan. It's not considered a real akira. It was never resting. It was like floating. It was floating, but it's like floating in the air. That's the idea. Now, so that was the pshita. Whenever there's a pshita obvious, so then there's a question that follows. Unless it's the pshita itself is a question. Pshita, it's obvious. Otherwise, it's the introduction to a question. So now, Bayirava, Egis Bekeli Tzafel Gabi Mayamau. You have a nut that's inside a vessel. And the vessel is floating on the water. It's in a little bucket. Do you look at the nut and the nut was in a vessel? Okay, you took it off, and now you carried it. Vidilma, or do you look at the vessel? Well, and the vessel wasn't resting. So how far down do you look at this? And if you go any further, this is going to be like tectonic plates. You're going to say everything is moving. That's not counted. Here we're talking about it's floating on water, and you're moving it from one rishus to another. The question is if it's considered resting, because it was in a bucket that the bucket itself wasn't resting. I'm sorry?
We did this already, where you're carrying food in the keli, and the question was whether one was batal to the other. Didn't we?
Yeah. Here we're not discussing the bittul aspect. Here we're discussing if it's considered resting. Because a walnut or a nut on top of water is not considered resting. So there was no akira. It was in motion before you took it. So now the only thing is it was in motion if it was on the water. But let's say it's in a vessel that's on the water. So do I look at blindly, just look at the nut on top of the vessel? I ignore everything else. It's resting on a vessel. And so therefore it wasn't in motion. Or do I say that 1 second, the vessel was in motion? So that automatically means the nut was also.
According to the Smith children, they were in motion. It was in motion because the plane passed over.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. Added to the list of states that we passed through. Okay, Shemen, the Gemara leaves us with the teku. Shemen al gabe yayin. Another interesting way of looking at this. Another example of the same. If you have oil that's on top of wine, so machlekes Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri v'Rabbanan. This is actually machlekes. The Tanan shemen should suffer gabe yayin v'nagat full yayin b'shemen. Like pasal al shemen. We're talking about someone that has the type of tumah that if he touches something, it doesn't give it enough tumah for that tumah to extend to the next thing. That's what we're discussing. So it's full yayin. He's paisel only the thing that he touches, but what he touches can't give that tumah over. So he touches the oil. Underneath the oil is wine. So is the oil and wine considered one item? Or is the oil and wine considered two separate items? So the first opinion says that only the oil is contaminated because the wine is something separate. That's the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says they're both attached. That would mean regarding Shabbos, the nut on top of the water, it's like the nut is on top of the water, even though it's in a vessel, because the nut and the vessel could become one. According to No. Not on top of the water, according to the Rabbanan. Rashi is saying that according to the Rabbanan, let's say it's two separate items. Oh, that's what we're doing here. We're saying that water on top of water was considered a akira. So here, if the wine and the oil are one, then it would be considered water on top of water. But if the wine and the oil are two separate things, then it's like a nut on top of water. That's what the Gemara is saying. Okay, Amar Abaya. We're not answering the Keli part. Bar b'shisarabim amuka asara uracha b'shmeina. If you have a pit in the Shisarabim, 10 tvachim deep. It's wide, 8. 8 tvachim. B'zarek l'secha machzelis, and you throw a curtain, a mechitza, a partition. Is chayev. Okay, it's Rosh Hashanah. Chilka b'machzelis pater. But let's say what happened was he put the machzelis into it, this curtain, this partition, and he divided the pit in half. When he divides the pit in half, this half of the pit doesn't have 4 tvachim, and that half of the pit doesn't have 4 tvachim. So he ruined the Rosh Hashanah. He took away a Rosh Hashanah by putting a divider in it. Even though I originally had 8, but together with the thickness of the machzeles, they both lose their 4. Labaya de pshitale de machzeles mevatla mechitza kosken cholya de mevatla mechitza. Abaya says that he's pater. Aha. Let's go back to the question of Rabbi Yochanan before, that if someone puts inside a pit dirt, and the pit was 10 tvachim, but when he puts it in, it now is only 9 tvachim. So according to Abaya, that says over here, if you put a partition into a pit, that really is Rosh Hashanah, but by putting it in, it loses its status of Rosh Hashanah in your pater. So the same thing over there, you put dirt into the pit, for sure it loses its status as a Rosh Hashanah. Excuse me, Rabbi Yochanan, the Mibayele Chulya, Rabbi Yochanan that had the question before, Machzeles Pshita Dlema, the Mibayele Chulya, Machzeles Pshita Dlema Vatla Mechitza. By the Machzeles, it definitely doesn't work. If he had a question about dirt, does the dirt take away the status of its rishus? Even though, of course, the dirt is bottled to the ground and you're going to leave it there. Over here, when you're using a partition, it's less bottled than the dirt is. So there's less of a reason to get rid of the rishus. And maybe it's still considered a rishus hayachid when you put it in. So in this case, Rabbi Yochanan would still say chayiv. Because you put it into rishus hayachid. Now it's not a Rosh Hashanah, but it's less not a Rosh Hashanah than putting dirt in, which there it really doesn't. There it really takes away the status of Rosh Hashanah because the dirt is bottled to the ground. It's finished. It's not a new floor. It's not a Rosh Hashanah anymore. And nevertheless, Rabbi Yochanan over there had a question. So over here we should say that he's for sure chayiv. Amar Abaya also says, "Bar b'shus rabba mamuka sara chava arba malaya mayim." You have a pit, 10 tvachim deep, but it's filled with water. This is getting interesting. Is that considered Rosh Hashanah when it's filled? The zarak l'seicha, you threw something into it. It's chayev because it's still Rosh Hashanah. Malaya pears, let's say it's full of fruit. Zarak l'seicha, and you throw into it. It's pater. He's exempt. Why? Doesn't go to the bottom. It's filled up. My time. The pears, the pears, the fruits make it lose its status of a pit. Taisus over here is concerned about Gemaras in different places that tell us that fruits do not become bottled to the floor. And there's an issue here with that. Taisus says maybe we're dealing with the type of fruit that can't be moved on Shabbos because he didn't take meiser off it. Different ways to avoid this issue. Tanya Namihachi, another brisa says, "Azerik menayam l'israti." If someone throws out of the sea, from the sea to a plaza, menasrati eliyam. The sea is a carmelis, or he throws from a plaza to the sea. He's pater. Shimon Aimer in yesh b'makim shezarak amak asara v'rachav arba chayev. If there is from the place where he was standing, 10 tvachim deep, 4 tvachim wide, then it's considered Rosh Hashanah. We see from Reb Shimon that the water does not take away the rishus. It was Rosh Hashanah. As you look at the area, the seabed, you don't look at the way that it got filled in with water. And if it's considered Rosh Hashanah. Okay, we have a new Mishnah now. Let's see if we can get to the end of the page. Hazorik arba'amas b'kaisel, ma'alim asar tvachim. We had this Mishnah before once. Someone throws on the wall, throws at the wall, and it's above 10 tvachim. Kazorik ba'aviretz, he threw it into the airspace. L'matim asar tvachim. If he throws it below 10 tvachim, kazorik ba'aretz, he threw it on the ground. Kazorik ba'aretz arba'amas chayav. So when it throws on the ground, 4 amas is chayav in Rosh Hashanah. When it says v'holei nach, the question that we asked before, which we quoted, name of Rabbi Yechanan. What do you mean you threw it on the wall and you chayav, but it didn't land on the wall? No, we're talking about a case where it lands on the wall because it gets stuck to the wall. Rav Yehuda is the name of Rav and the name of Rav Chia. Zarak l'mayla me'asara, if you threw above 10 tvachim, and it lands in a little crevice. It lands in a crevice in the wall. So bana l'machleikas shemei v'ravana. You see, the crevice in the wall is not a 4x4. Above 10 tvachim, if it would be an area of 4x4, then we consider it a Rosh Hashanah. Here it lands in a crevice. The question is, do you fictitiously carve out a larger area because the wall itself may be 4 tvachim? And there's a crevice here. Do we make it like as if the whole area it landed in an area of 4x4? And so therefore, mechayev. Reb Meir holds that you carve it out to make it a size of 4x4. You don't actually carve it out, but you imagine that it's carved out to be an area because it's containing an item. And according to the Rabbanan, you don't do that. Tanya nami hachi. Zarak l'mayla me'asar v'alchan v'benachem b'chor kalshu Rameir mechayev v'cham pach. We have a brayse actually that says this directly. Do you consider a large wall, let's say the kaisel, the area in front of the kaisel is a shisarabim, right? That's a plaza. Everyone can go there. Someone throws his note, turns it into like a little plane, throws it into one of the cracks in the wall, above 10 tvachim off the ground. Now that crack doesn't have an area of a 4x4 tvachim. According to Rav Meir, though, we imagine that it does because the wall is so wide. It's as if it landed in an area of 4x4, according to the Rabbanan. No. So, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, tell him eslaket asar mitech arba. This is a very important halacha for North Miami Beach. A telam eslaket is a mound. Tel is a mound that collects. That means it rises up, but it's not a wall that's straight. Usually a mechitza, you imagine, is a straight wall. Telam eslaket is an incline. It's an incline, but its height is 10 tvachim, and the width is within 4 amas. Why is it important for North Miami Beach? Because our Erev uses a telam eslaket. The canal, the wall of the canal is an incline. That's the Erev, the telam. It's called telam eslaket. It droops down. Yeah, it's inclined down. You can ask on this that all the countries, because of the incline in the ocean and all of that. That's a discussion the place can discuss. So, v'zarak v'nachal gabav. If someone throws on top from Rosh Hashanah, on top of a tail, so that tail is considered a Rosh Yachid if it's 4x4 on top. Tanya nami hachi. There's another brayse. If you have a mavi is an alleyway, that the entrance is equal to the street. I'm sorry. It's the mavi itself has a flat area, but to get into the Rosh Hashanah there's an incline. Or maybe it's flat with the street, but to get into the mavi, once you enter in, then it goes down or up. So you don't need any other symbol to show where the mavi ends. Usually you need a lechi, which is a post, or a kaira, a beam across, to show where it ends. Over here you don't need that because the incline itself is 10 tvachim. Chanina ben Gamliel says that if you throw on top, it's considered chayim. It's considered its own area. Do I have another 5 minutes to get to the top of the page? Let me try to do that. That way we'll be on the page that we're supposed to. Zorak, if someone throws, but he didn't throw far enough to be chayiv. He threw within 4 amas, and it niskalgal either means that it rolled or it rolled in the wind. The wind blew it a little further outside of 4 amas. He's pater. That wasn't his throw. If he threw it 4 amas, and niskalgal teich dalet amas, then he's chayiv. The wind blew it back in, then he's going to be chayiv. But it didn't land. Why is he chayiv? It didn't make it to the place that he threw. We're talking about that it landed. If it landed and it rolled back, so he's going to be chayiv. Tanya nami hachi. There's a brayso. Zar kotzadal and amas v'tach v'asei ruach v'chnisasai afal pi shechaz v'yitzasai pater. He throws outside dalet amas. The wind brings it back, and then it takes it back out. He's exempt. What happened over here? He threw outside dalet amas. It comes back in. He's chayiv. There must be that it didn't land. That's what we're going to bring out. If the wind grabbed it, I guess it means that it stopped. When it changed direction, it stood in stationary for 1 moment. Then it blew back in, so then it's going to be chayiv. That's considered like it landed outside the 4 amas. Amar Rava says, Teich Gimel l'Rabbanan tzarech hanachal gabi mashu. We throw in this opinion here. We're familiar with this opinion, but we didn't mention it recently. So machlekes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbanan, if we say kluta kamisha huncha, something that's flying, is it as if it landed? The Rabbanan say that it did not land. So therefore, I could have thought to say that if you throw something in Rosh Hashanah, within 3 tefachim of the ground, really it doesn't even need to land. According to Rabbi Kiva, for sure it doesn't need to land, because it's as if it landed. According to the Rabbanan, it needs to land. But I could have thought maybe that if it's within 3 tefachim of the ground, it's love, but it's as if it's always stationary as it's moving. It's as if it landed. Rava says no, it needs to actually land. Yosef Marema v'kamal ala shmaita, amli Ravina l'Ramema. Marema was saying this over, but Rava said. Ravina says to him, Lav hainu masnisen. Is that not our Mishnah? Vam Rabbi Yechon v'ushinah. Al gabi mashu. Isn't that what our Mishnah said? That you threw something outside, you threw it outside of 4 amas, and it comes back in, that you're still chayiv. And we didn't say that it landed. We didn't say that it doesn't need to land. Rabbi Yechon said that it's only chayiv if it actually landed. See, even according to the Rabbanan, if it's within 3 tefachim from the ground, it still needs to land. Rabbi Yechon said that. Amalei miskalgal kamrit. You're telling me about miskalgal, where it's rolling around, or either in the wind, or ein seifel lenuach. Over there, it wasn't going to rest. Aval haik even the seifel lenuach, aval gav leinach, command the nach tamid, mashman and not. Okay, what's happening here is that a person is only chayiv if he has to be a shogeg throughout the whole malacha. So he doesn't know what he's doing wrong, and he's throwing something. He doesn't know it's Shabbos. He doesn't know that it's Asr. Let's say in middle, before it lands, he then realizes that, oy vey, it's Shabbos. So he changes his understanding of what he did in middle. He can't bring a chatas because he's not a shogeg anymore in the middle. So the question is, if it didn't land yet, and he changes his kavanah, because now he realizes, oh, I threw something and it's Shabbos. So if he threw, we're comparing it to what happened in the wind, that it has to stop for a moment. So Rabbi Yochanan says only if it stops is it considered like it landed. So over there, if it doesn't stop, then it just would have continued because the wind was taking it. So if it doesn't stop, so it's not like it landed. But over here, you threw an item. I'm not talking about the wind is going to take it indefinitely, wherever. It's about to land. And then you right away changed your thoughts that you realized. So over there, I could have thought that, 1 second, it's landing right now, and it's within 3 tvachim. It's as if it landed. It's not like like Rabbi Yochanan's case where it would continue unless it lands. Over here, it's about to land. So the Gemara tells me, or Rava tells me, Kamash Malan, that until it lands, if he changes his intention, even in that case, it's not going to be fine. Let's leave it over here.